the
Okay,
yeah.
so thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today. Today is like the session, the one before the last, I believe, session for the Inspiring the Minds workshops and seminars online. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Ellen Garcia, and I'm from the University of Alicante. And I would like to discuss with all of you about some hot topics, which are diversity, inclusion, and equity in the blue economy. So without further ado, I'm going to start sharing my presentation. So please let me know when you can see my presentation. I think it's not in presentation mode yet, but it should be now, right?
Yes, if you make it in
Okay.
presentation mode, will be great.
Okay. So actually, before we start, I would like to know if any of you has any idea about what blue economy is. Let's start by blue economy. Do you know, any of you? Maybe I can stop sharing and we come back to the presentation later. Any of you
Blue.
knows?
For me, blue, I have no exactly concepts of a blue economy, but I try to understand with what is blue and economy. Blue, I think, comes from the sea that we are around us, and economy, I think, is the economy that has to do with the sea. We talk about fish, we talk about industry, fish industry that has benefit from it, and how the interchange of these things are, and perhaps in future what the industry has to do in order to be sustainable, or in order to be more cleaner, in order to be more efficient, in order to be more circular. I don't know, but this is my first perception about it.
Yeah, very good, very good. So thank you very much for your input. We have another one. Very good. No, not bad at all. Quite comprehensive. We also have collude. And according to collude, yes, is any economic related or any economy related to water? Yes.
Yeah.
Blue, water, good, excellent. So we have some idea about what this could be. Okay.
Well,
So
for me, Eileen, I think blue economy is, as Khulud said, it's any economy related to water, like rivers or lakes or ocean or sea. But also it's the economies that are help this sector. Like, for example, if there is something related to energy, like the energy sector that are helping this type of this blue economy. This is part of the economy as well. Transportation, for example, the food that you produce from the ocean to transport it. So the transportation is part of the economy. So it's like bigger scope.
okay, very good. We are expanding the definition a little bit. Excellent. So let's have a look, because by the looks of it, there is many components. There is water, fresh water, maybe like ocean and sea water. It looks like there is different levels or sectors or subsectors. So let's have a look together at some definitions of the blue economy and why it is such. Can you see the presentation again?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So all of you said some key aspects of the blue economy. Let's have a look. So for the World Bank, the blue economy is the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods, and jobs while preserving the health of ocean system. So here we're talking indeed about economy, as Colud was saying, yes, related to ocean, as you were all mentioned, but it's also linking to livelihoods and job creation, but not forgetting about preserving the health of the ocean ecosystem. Okay, so the World Bank gives a little bit more of a targeted definition. Now we have also another definition by the European Commission. So according to the European Commission, it's all economic activities related to ocean, seas, and coast. So now we not only say ocean, we also say seas and coast. And it covers a wide range of interlinked, established, and emerging sectors. So now we are starting to understand that there is plenty of sectors or maybe even subsectors involved in all this economy or this economic growth. And now we go. Can you hear?
Yes, but I think we see only the first slide. So
it's not passing. Is it moving now?
No, not moving.
No.
No.
Okay. Let me share differently. I will.
Yeah, maybe you can share different screen.
Yeah, I will share the other screen instead of. So I will share the second. Okay, maybe it will be better if I do like this. Can you see it now?
Yes, I think it will work now. Yes.
Yes, and now if I change.
Yes, Helen. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So there is different definitions, and now we have two other important definitions to understand how even the most relevant actors or international stakeholders struggle to find a single definition for the blue economy. So we have the World Bank, we have the European Commission, now we have Conservation International. Let's have a look where they put the focus. So they say blue economy also includes economic benefits and may not be marketed, such as carbon storage, coastal protection, cultural values, and biodiversity. Hello, we're talking culture here as well, and biodiversity, carbon sequestration or carbon storage, coastal protection. So we're starting to be a little bit more specific. And now there is a European Center for Blue Economy, which says that now this is a widely used term around the world with three related but distinct meanings. The overall contribution of the oceans to the economy, I think that's clear. The need to address the environmental and ecological sustainability of the oceans. So we're back to the sustainability and environmental component, but always thinking that the ocean economy as a growth opportunity for both developed and developing countries. So it's many components, but what is really the blue economy? So can you name a sector? Any of you? I think if you write in the chat, I cannot see it at the moment. So maybe Tamer, you can help me if there is any feedback in the chat.
Yes.
Before you mentioned food production, right, Tamer? You said food production and the transportation, shipping and transportation of this food, for instance. This could be a sector, right?
Yeah. Followed road fishery.
Fisheries, good.
Tourism.
Very good. Any other?
Aquaculture.
Aquaculture, very good.
But I think even energy or things like this, can it?
Yes. Marine renewable energies, very good. Any other thing?
Investment and development.
Blue investment, for instance, this could be considered a sector or at least a good portion of the blue economy. Very good. Well, not bad. Let's not torture you anymore, and let's have a look at what the EU Blue Economy sectors are according to the EU Blue Economy Observatory. Okay, so I think tourism is very natural to us. We all mention like tourism, fisheries, etc. So here the Blue Economy Observatory from the European Union recognizes all of those, plus desalination, important, always or often overlooked. It's I actually found it interesting that they include this in this definition. Blue biotechnology. Blue biotechnology is everything. Some of you, I know because of your backgrounds that you know what it is, but for instance, it's algae production for different processes, for instance, for production of nutraceutical, cosmetics, etc., etc. This is also blue economy. Infrastructure and robotics, underwater. I think here we have an unmanned, or yes, I think it's an unmanned automated vehicle. There is the ROBs, all these robots and infrastructures that are used underwater. And there is more, of course, marine renewable energies. Very good, Elena. There is maritime transport. This was and shipping, I would add here, because we have the freight transport. So we have cargo transportation, but we also have passenger, the cruise ships, etc. And we have port activities, everything that takes place in ports. And we also have shipbuilding and ship repair. Of course, when we think of blue economy, we think of vessels, boats, cruise ships of all sizes. And we, of course, have research and innovation in different aspects of the related to the ocean, or even to its governance, to its economy, underwater cultural heritage, etc. But these 12 subsectors would be the one that have the largest categories according to the Blue Economy Observatory of the European Union.
Christina also said mineral exploration.
Yes, very good. Yeah, that's a very good one. So this is actually coming in a few slides. As you see, we already, even if we take the official definition by the Blue Economy Observatory, there is some that we are missing already, like seabed mining, for instance, etc. So very good, and thank you so much for pointing out, Christina. So we have seen that blue economy is a complex issue in terms of its own definition. The more we advance, even when we are taking the official definitions, the more components we are adding, that it brings together or incorporates many subsectors, none of them small. As you can see, maritime transport, shipping, research in the field, or marine renewable, they're massive, same as port activities, etc. Aquaculture, fisheries, crucial and fundamental for the economies of many different countries and regions around the world. So now let's move to the other concepts of the session. I think now we all have a little bit of a clear picture of some components of the blue economy. So if we think of blue economy, some of these terms ring a bell. Okay, so do you think, before we move forward, do you think the blue economy it's tapped to its full potential? Do you think it's all these sectors that we are mentioning here are fully developed? Do you think that we are getting the most out of this? I will come back. So blue biotechnology, coastal tourism, desalination. You can think of any, and then please let me know if you think that some of them are developed.
Yes, Helen, from my perspective, I think basically farmer is very important, because hunger is something that has to do in the worldwide, and we need to focus on the the technology according to these futures ways of feed people from the in the world, because the way we are doing right now is not sustainable. If you look for meat that produce a lot of dioxide gases in the atmosphere, so you need to move to another way to feed humankind. And I think so. I do believe that blue economy is one of the ways to change the way we feed, with being more sustainable. For instance, seeds, algae, some kind of new plants is seed plants that can transform the way we feed in the worldwide.
Thank you so much, Antonio. Very good. Anybody else?
Also, Michael add a comment here that no, there are many things underdeveloped. Like there is still a lot of things to develop and get maximize the benefit out of it.
Okay, yes, that's also true for many of these subsectors. So there is so the potential of not all subsectors or sectors here has been fully tapped. As Antonio said, it's immense, the potential that some of these sectors have for global challenges, such as reducing hunger and any other input. Do you think there is room for development in some sectors, in some other? Do you think?
I'm not quite sure, but perhaps the weight in the medicine area, perhaps with the according to the way to treat some kind of illness, doctors or scientists tend to go to Amazon to find some kind of plants that can cure, for instance, very difficult illness like tumors or cancer, and perhaps the water, the oceans, brings them the possibility to find ways to treat another bad illness, or as for instance, I would say the example of cancer, because cancer is difficult to sometimes not easy, but sometimes it's been a little bit difficult to treat in some sense. So they can find some kind of plan, some kind of resources to deal with this kind of illness. I don't know.
I can jump in there.
Yes.
And say, Antonio, there is a huge amount of research being done on the marine environment for medical purposes, particularly related to sponges and corals and some algae. So this is done, it's just not as well known by the general public as the research done in the Amazon. And there is room to grow and to explore more the potential benefits, pharmaceutical benefits of marine organisms, in large part because a huge part of marine organisms and the marine ecosystem are not yet well known to us, because it is the least studied of the natural environments on the planet, because of the difficulty to access to work in it in many cases and the lack of funding for fundamental research. So there's definitely a huge potential of development left in the marine environment in terms of identification of resources for pharmaceuticals and everything. But it's also aligned with the need for further funding and fundamental research in that area.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Christina, for your explanation. Very good.
Very, very thoughtful inputs, all of them. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Indeed, some of them are more developed. Yes.
Khulud actually writes that mineral exploration, like mid-ocean exploration, is something that we should rethink. It can damage our ocean.
Indeed. So that's very thoughtful as well. So there is many backlashes from seabed mining. So this is one of the sustainable or so-called sustainable blue or emerging blue economy sectors that it's always under under very close follow-up, because some economies, some governments are really keen and looking forward to explore and to take seabed mining to the next level, but indeed it has some limitations. So by now, all I'm hearing is all very relevant, but we are focusing on two main components. So we are focusing on the economy and the contribution to job creation and advancing the knowledge, advancing in innovation. So we are focusing on economy, innovation, etc. And we are also focusing on sustainability, on also contribution to the needs or the global challenges at a global scale, also with some limitations, etc. But this is because I think some of us have heard about this concept of blue economy and how could this be sustainable or not. But circling back to the topic of today, some of these sectors we could discuss that afterwards. Some of these sectors are more developed than others. Some of them are emerging. Some of them are more sustainable than others. But are they diverse, inclusive, and fair? That's the next question. So before we move forward, because I know the backgrounds here are very different, let's have a look at what is what, okay? So according to the European Commission, what is diversity? So diversity refers to the difference in the values, attitudes, cultural perspective, beliefs, ethnic background, sexual orientation, gender identity, skills, knowledge, and life experiences of each individual in any group of people. Okay? For the American Psychological Association, it describes the composition of a population, not the differences at the Commission, but the composition of a population and social identity group in a work group, organization, or community. And it can include race, so it has many commonalities: race, ethnicity, culture, gender identity, and expression. So there is different approaches here. So not only the gender identity that the European Commission refers, but also to its expression and gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, religion, spirituality, disability, age, national origin, immigration status, and language. So it becomes a little bit more complex, but at least we know that diversity it not only refers as it for those who are not so versed in the matter. I myself don't come from a social science background. Is something that we need to, like, concepts that we need to have close hands because they are not so natural. So maybe we think of different ethnicities, etc., 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 but it has many more components, as we can see here. Okay. And according to the American Psychological Association, this includes the recognition that people have multiple identities and that social identities are intersectoral and have different importance and impact in different contexts. So diversity is important, but so it is its recognition. Okay, what about inclusion? So inclusion is an environment that offers affirmation, celebration, and appreciation of different approaches, styles, perspective, and experiences, thus allowing all individuals to bring in their whole selves and all their identities and to demonstrate their strengths and capacities. So everything that we have mentioned before, all this diversity is taken into consideration, is not neglected, is not ignored, but is affirmed and celebrated and appreciated. Okay? And now the next step, what is equity? I will not, if we had like a lot of time, I would have done like different quizzes with you to say what is what, but we really don't have time, and it's many different concepts, and I'm giving you the sort of official definitions here because I think it's easier that way, so we can jump into linking all of the concepts in the next slides. But equity, so equity is actually the goal of diversity and inclusion. So sometimes it's equity, it's confused with equality, but there is one core difference. Is where equality is a system in which each individual is offered the same opportunities. We're talking about opportunities here. Each individual is offered the same opportunities regardless of circumstance. Equity distributes resources based on needs. So equality offers same opportunities, not considering the context, but equity distributes resources based on the actual needs of the individuals. Okay, so we are in a disproportionate society, and equity tries to correct this unbalance by creating more opportunities for people who have historically had less access to them. Now, do you think the blue economy is inclusive, diverse, and fair? To come back to what was blue economy, because we are incorporating many concepts now, I'm coming back to another definition of blue economy sectors, this one provided by United Nations Environmental Program. Okay, so it's very similar to the previous one, but just for you to compare. So before we were missing the coastal mining and seabed mining, and here, according to UNEP, the Environmental Program of United Nations, we have it here. So you can consider these ones, or you can consider the ones that we were discussing before, according to the Blue Economy Observatory of the European Union. So, any of you, do you think at least they are inclusive in terms of gender, for instance? Any of you?
Well, Michael, Christina, and myself,
Yes.
I think all of us agree that no, it's not inclusive.
Okay.
I don't know, Antonio, about you.
Well, I can affirm 100% that it's not inclusive, because if inclusive involves, for instance, in industry, to talk about gender, about female and men people, we are not sure aware that the people that work in the family, in this kind of companies, blue economies, in this mass blue economy, has to do with more with male and female. So we can indeed, if we focus according to what we see in the media, we see in the internet and something like that, where we assume, or we that there are big corporations that the aim, the goal is to get profit. So, but I can assure 100% that this kind of blue economy is not diversity. We are not well aware. It's true. We are not well aware, for instance, in the locals, the local countries, how the people take advantage, perhaps with no permission of the locals. And in this perspective, for instance, I would say that it's not diversity, because they focus on the benefits, on the profits, more than in the local people. But when it comes to talking gender or something like that, we can affirm that is 100% that this kind of economy is not diversity. For instance, if we talk about gender, okay, my point of view.
Very good. Anybody? I will stop sharing for a second, and then I will see if there is any other input here. I like when I'm at this point. We still have some minutes. I mean, I have many more slides, but I think there is, like, Antonio summarized it very well. So in terms of gender, very little. What I usually do when I have larger groups, it's to play the game of people raising hands, like, do you know anybody? So I go sector by sector. So do you know anybody working on coastal tourism or tourism related to the blue economy? Everybody raises the hand. Everybody knows it's people. It's quite gender diverse or gender balanced sector, right? So it goes narrowing depending on when we are. And it's always tricky when I say, do you know, like, not talking about ethnicity, focusing still on gender. Do you know any woman, for instance, working on marine defense? So when I pose this question, I think I'm the only one actually raising my hand. And just because no, yes, very good, Kolut. And just because my son's best friend, his mom is actually working in the Spanish Naval Defense Company. She's a telecommunications engineer. But other than that, regardless of me giving this seminar to 10, 20, 50 people, we always struggle. So in terms of gender, some of these subsectors are quite well balanced, but most of them are really not. So there is lots to do. But now let's talk about inclusion, not only in terms of gender, diversity, and equity. Think, for instance, of fisheries. I think we can all, if regardless of if we're talking a small scale or large scale, do you think that fisheries are diverse? That the actual stakeholder, fishermen, or women in fisheries?
No.
No.
And
No.
most things related to the sea. It's been a male-dominated sector since forever.
Forever.
To the point that even 150 years ago, many sailors considered it to be bad luck for there to be a woman.
To have women on board, indeed. Yes.
And there's also the stereotype that anything to do with the sea, well, not stereotype, it's true, is very rough work, very physical work. And so you have all these gender concepts that, women can't cut it, they can't deal with it, whether it be professional diving, whether it be fishing, whether it be marine underwater construction, anything related to this. In research, I would say it's probably a bit more balanced because a lot of the research is more oriented towards the life sciences, and we do have a pretty good gender balance there. Same thing in tourism, but in any of the more traditional heavy lifting sectors, definitely not.
Okay, so when we think of fisheries, we know for sure, either if it's large scale or small scale, that there is very little gender balance. Now, let's think, for instance, of different ethnicities. Can we think of fisheries? Maybe in this case, we can think of, again, small scale fisheries and large scale. Can you think of large fishing companies catching with crews from different nationalities?
Yeah, usually the large scale companies hire, because the fishing, well, the marine sectors is a sector that there's traditionally many people don't continue, like generation wise, because it's hard work. They want their kids to go to better lives or whatever. So in the Western world, you have very few people continuing the traditions, and a huge proportion of the people in the fishing industry, especially the large scale industry, but even the small ones, are even locally immigrants. And in the large scale ones, they're, I'd say, disproportionately from the global south. And you'll have the huge shipping ships are very multinational.
Yes.
That's a very good response indeed. We can eventually thank Cristina, because we can tell here that we have a very well-informed oceanographer, as she is among us. So very good, duly noted. So just taking, for instance, fisheries, which is one of the traditional blue economy sectors, we see that it is not gender balanced, that's clear. but it is very diverse. But so it's not inclusive in terms of gender, in terms of ethnicity, maybe, but do we have equity by the fact that, okay, if we take the gender component apart, because we have people from different nationalities, could you consider that there is fairness in the treatment of these
No,
people, just taking into consideration one subsector, fisheries, which is of course a traditional huge sector and a huge proportion of the blue economy? Do you think there is fairness in the treatment
no,
of
I
the
don't.
workers and
From
workforce?
my point of view, I don't think so.
Mhm.
I think people from South
Mhm.
are treated not equally to the people from North, from Europe, for example. I think no, there is no equity here between the different people who are working there.
Indeed, very well spotted, Tamer. So that's the case. The fact that we have many different, yes, exactly. We all agree with Tamer, I think. The fact that we have many different nationalities may show some signs of inclusions in terms of people from different origins, but that doesn't mean that it's fairly integrated in the blue economy. Actually, sadly, it is often the case that the human resources of the people working in different sectors are not at all respected. So there is people from like there is large corporations that have been pointed out, have been as being constant violators of the human resources rights protections international schemes, because, and this is very hard to say, but sometimes they actually get rid of workers overboard. And you may see this is maybe the lowest paid workforce, etc. So is the case, but it is also the case, for instance, in Europe. There were, like, not so long ago, there were a few cases of there is the figure of catching controllers that are recognized by the government. I don't know if you have heard of this figure. So this job position is a person that joins the fishermen when they go offshore and they are doing their catches, and it's controlling that what they are reporting is legally fished and is compliant with the legal regulations for fishing in the fishing area. Okay, sometimes even those workers who are skilled as well. A woman, yeah, that, and I hope she had better luck than some of the cases that were reported. So sometimes even those government officials, when they were reporting illegal practices, they have been also killed in the sea, disappear, and actually the company afterwards reported, the companies reported that they disappear in a storm, whatever, etc. So different scenarios. So fairness, maybe if it may look like a diverse subsector, is very complicated to actually have development in the blue economy subsectors that is actually inclusive, fair, and diverse. All components together very seldom come together. So let's go back to the presentation. So let me know if you can see the presentation in presentation mode again.
Yes.
Okay. So there was a very interesting study between colleagues from Ghana and Canada. And they were part from the Institute of Ocean and Fisheries in the University of British Columbia and the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration. And in a recent publication, they said that currently diversity, social equity, and inclusions consideration have not been foregrounded in the discourse surrounding the blue economy and are continuously overlooked and undervalued. So all these issues that we were mentioned, they're not at all taken into consideration into the blue economy discussions, governance, fora, relevant fora, etc. And it's not something that they did as of 2023. So they were taking data from 1988 to 2016. And taking all the data and analyzing all the data that they have, they concluded that they have the exclusion of the equity considerations within the blue economy investment can actually undermine ocean-based activities such as marine wildlife conservation initiatives that may disrupt the ocean sustainability agenda. So this actually has an impact when we do not bring equity into the which, if we can remember, it's where diversity and inclusion is the goal of both of them, where they meet. When we don't take both into consideration, it actually has a real impact in the wildlife conservation and in the preservation of the ocean, and it can hinder our advancements toward have more sustainable ocean that produces its natural ecosystem functions, such as, for instance, tackling climate change, which we all know its core. So they concluded that is not taken into consideration, and that, for instance, indigenous people, women, small-scale fisher, low-income earners, and otherwise systematically disadvantaged groups, racialized minorities, coastal communities, and remote populations with poor employment and infrastructure at risk of environmental degradation and unsustainable development were still existent. So as you know, the indigenous communities, local communities, coastal communities not only know the sea for millennia, they have always tried to take care of the environment in a way that we no longer do, because their life always depending on it precisely. So instead of bringing this precious knowledge to the table, to the discussion, to the governance, to the advancement of the blue economy, we are ignoring what they're doing. So their rights are no longer taken into consideration, and they're excluding from all decision-making process. So we know it's quite complex to bring everybody on board, but is there any place where we can reconcile all these components, where we can have a blue economy, but we can actually have diversity and inclusion incorporated and say that we have actually realized equity? So let's have a look at this small diagram. So in this study, the authors that I was mentioned from Canada and Ghana, they concluded that we can actually achieve it, but there is a number of aspects that we need to take into consideration. So for instance, the stakeholders all need to be recognized and acknowledged. So we need to recognize the diversity of all the ocean actors and their rights. So it's not only the workforce, it's not only the people that is working in blue economy, if we are referring to tourism or aquaculture or marine defense or seabed mining. It's all stakeholders. And when I'm talking about this, I'm also referring to the communities that are affected by all these economic activities, the impact that it has in the local population, in the coastal population. They are also stakeholders. So we need to take them into consideration. We also need to take into consideration, as Antonio was mentioning, at the very beginning of the session, I was quite happily surprised, Antonio, because you were targeting precisely one of the key points here. You were targeting the disappearance of hunger and how important blue biotechnology is to food security. So, for instance, the authors here concluded that recognizing that all people have the right to food that is nutritious and culturally appropriate and are produced sustainably, ethically, and ecologically. So if we have blue economy that is diverse, inclusive, and fair, we can also contribute to food security. Also, when we're talking about making decisions, for instance, working to fairly distribute benefits and harms. Very often, we are working in waters where we are catching all the fish, or where we are installing aquaculture farms, or where we are installing offshore wind parks, for instance, without considering the needs or the opinions from the coastal population, especially those that are most vulnerable to changes in the coast, because they are most affected by anything that you do in these waters, and also if there is any change, for instance, derived from climate change. Related to governance, to have an inclusive governance, for instance, vulnerable groups' voices and visions are included in the blue economy strategies. As we were saying, if these people who have been taking care of their small ecosystems for millennia, we will use their precious knowledge to the advantage of the wider community. So inclusive governance is also a place where we can reconcile all these relevant matters. Then gender equality. Women have equal access to market and decision making across blue economy sectors. This is, of course, another thing that could contribute to have a more resilient, more sustainable, and of course, inclusive and gender balanced blue economy. Some sectors are closer than others. There is a lot to do, but there is, you will see in the next slide, some examples of projects that are taking this into consideration with outstanding results. Then, regarding marine conservation. So marine conservation protects vulnerable communities who depend on blue economy for their livelihoods. We have already talked about this. So it's these communities who are depending on the status of the marine environment closer to them should also be taken into consideration. And of course, a fair distribution. We were saying that often is those less with less resources and less opportunities to defend their rights, those that are more harmed by the implementation or the development of the blue economy when this is not done in a sustainable, fair way. And also not to forget about the social and cultural values, because not only because we should consider this into decision making and because they need to be integrated. All coastal communities are bound to the sea, not only by the need or in some cases direct dependence from the sea for their livelihoods, but also because it's a very cultural thing. I think most of you have stories maybe from your childhood, from your younger years, or from wherever, where you can actually think of yourself with your friends, your family, whatever, enjoying the sea, experience this link as in some cases, like a good part of us are like from the Mediterranean background here. The Mediterranean culture and heritage is also very a very strong link to the communities. So when we hear the voices of all members in the communities, we're making it more inclusive and more fair apart to contributing and having a sustainable blue economy, which is something that it's been ongoing, like this term, it's been ongoing, but it's been very far from being fair, diverse, and inclusive. I think somebody wanted to say something, maybe? No, my bad. Otherwise, I cannot see the chat while I'm sharing, so just please jump in.
Antonio has a comment or so?
I will say something about basically the terms that we work here. We work in Inspiring the Minds. Also, it's equity in terms, for example, the example in Alicante, when migrants, because here they are, because the circumstances, and a lot of migrants comes there, and sometimes they are work fishers industries that they are not good. They are not workers because younger people decided to abandon this industry because they are very hard. This industry are very hard, very tough, especially younger people. And this is a gap. There is a gap in this industry, and is very bad for industry when you are working in terms of sustainability. You are a very little industry, but you are very aware about what's sustainability, how to be sustainable with fish, the fish that you need to take, like not industry. It's a pity when you find this industry and there are no workers, and this industry has been abandoned because of the lack of people. However, I wanted to connect this idea with migrants. And migrants, when we talk about diversity and inclusivity, and then explain equity. And when a migrant comes here to, for instance, Spain, and try to find papers, try to be legal, trying to find work, and when these people are legal, decide to work, and they face the difficulties to find. And for me, for instance, a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, told me an example in Santa Pola. Santa Pola is a village that is not very far from Alicante, but it's very plenty of fish industry, a small fish industry. And for me, it was very, very exciting, was very, very amazing to see to listen to the example, how the people, the fishing people of this teeny village gives work to, for instance, the people, some kind of people of migrant, because they were good fishers in the local countries, Somalia, on different areas, or like this, no? And they find that these fishing people are very good in the skills. They have the skills because when they were in the local countries, they had a good background in fishing. They know exactly where the fish are, how to handle with the nets, how to put the hook fish in a specific areas to tricky the fish. So we join together, because equity for me is also give the resources to migrant people, for instance, to help them because they have difficulties. So the way to this kind of teeny village give the resources to have a work in the fishing industry, a small fishing industry, for me is an example to join everything, to join together the things that Inspiring the Mind we are explaining, no? So for me, this story, this as anecdote, for me was very heartbreaking, because I have the memory. I try to connect the memory with Inspiring the Minds.
No, thank you for sharing. And you're actually linking many things, you're actually linking, the cultural heritage related to the ocean, the, previous activities that are no longer working so well, these economies that are going down, the integration, the potential integration of knowledge from the local communities, even if they are coming from abroad, even if they're migrants, how this could be incorporated in our local economy in this case, and how they could improve, and maybe they could have continued business instead of discontinuing. And this also relates, this actually relates to many things that fall under Cloud Earth I, not only inspiring the minds by Cloud Earth I, but of course inspiring the minds in terms of capacity building, also passing knowledge through generations, you know, upscaling, providing new skills to people that are, for instance, descendants from this fisherman or fisher, this economy, this family economy is always related to fishing, etc. How can they reconvert or continue business in a more sustainable way? So there is many things. This I think this is a topic that brings together many concepts, and sometimes it sparks different, you know, different notions in all of us, you know, each of us coming from our own background and our own experience and knowledge and expertise can think of ways of linking this, and they're all very they are very interesting, because there is not one solution or one thing that we can do that fits all. But luckily, there is some people that have been working on it and have tried to systematize, and we can see that we can be creative, following some sort of simple steps to try to have a more fair
I lose the line. I think Helen.
I think Elenia lost
I
internet.
think Ellen
Yeah.
lost the connection.
Yes.
Exactly.
hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, Ellen.
I
I'm
think
back.
I fell from the call. Okay, I'm back. So I need some more minutes. I think we still have some minutes. No, Tamer?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I
excellent.
can.
So I will come back to the presentation, and depending on how much. So no, this was the one where you could not see the. So if I go back here, can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, excellent. So we said that achieving equity in the blue economy is really not easy, but there are some principles of equity that we can always take into consideration, and they are not so hard to follow. So equity, as presented by Environmental Science and Policy Journal. Some authors here, I can give you the references and the full articles afterwards. So we could have equity in the processes or in the outcomes. So in how the blue economy is operating and its outcomes as well. But what are the principles that we should take into consideration when we are developing a project in blue economy, developing our business or working in blue economy? So fairness, I have been mentioning fairness since the beginning of the presentation today, but also try to prevent harm. So we need to achieve a point where the development of some sector, subsector, and communities that not cause harm in other communities and also in the environment. So this is critical as well. Also respecting rights. So the voices of those that are often overlooked, indigenous people, most vulnerable population in, for instance, the small island states, etc., that are not such big players in the decision-making processes, etc. And also supporting flourishing. So supporting the development of all people, ideas, communities all together. So I have found that there is actually some steps that we can follow to incorporate equity in the blue economy. So taking all these principles and into consideration, we can say that we can develop mechanisms to ensure the consideration of diversity and inclusivity through the entire process, and we can do it following these steps. So First, we need to consider what tools and mechanisms can be used to ensure that marginalized voices are heard and that they are safe places for these voices to be heard. As we said, they are usually the ones that nobody invites to decision-making process. If we are talking about maritime or marine spatial planning, you usually have in the discussion all the big players, offshore wind energy, you have port shipping, etc., tourism, of course, gas and oil, etc., but nobody invites those who actually know very well the environment. So everybody should be heard. Then define what you mean by equity. So if we are implementing or if we are thinking of developing an action related to the blue economy, what would be our equity goals? So we are focusing on not harming, it should be fair, etc., etc. So what would be our definition of equity, and how does it work towards achieving fairness, preventing harm, respecting rights, and supporting flourishing? Okay, then understand current equity status. So what is the context? Is anyone marginalized or excluded? How engagement of these groups is being considered? Is there any pre-existing governance arrangement that facilitates their engagement, etc.? Then identify equity goals and set objectives to meet these goals. Okay, so what would be the priority areas, way that we can achieve our goals, what would be the objectives, and we work towards these goals, and then ensure the equity principles that are considered in both the processes and outcome. And finally, develop actions and monitoring and evaluation frameworks. So taking all the above into consideration, we should also, in all the steps in monitoring and evaluation, include it to ensure that the processes, if needed, re-examine and dynamically consider. So as a general scheme, this seems to me like, okay, quite theoretical, to be honest. But is there a way that we can actually do this? I was looking at the literature and all the examples and everything that was published in this. And like when we were developing Inspiring the Minds, and we saw that there was clearly a gap in trying to bridge together sustainability, inclusion, diversity, etc. This is the case also for the blue economy. But is there actually anything that we can do to be fair, avoid harm, respect the rights, and support flourishing of all communities and stakeholders? So I have brought here to the table two very powerful and intuitive tools or mechanism. I don't know how you want to call it. I don't know if you have heard about them, but one of them are nature-based solutions applied to the blue economy. So nature-based solutions, for those who haven't heard of it, refer to the use of natural systems and processes to address environmental challenges like climate change, flood protection, and disaster risk reduction. For instance, in the blue economy, when we are talking about any initiative, project, etc., that is inspired by what the nature is doing. For instance, when we are doing activities related to mangrove restoration or rehabilitation or coral reef or seagrass, we are often inspired by what the nature itself is doing. So we are doing actions related to sustainable development of the blue economy that are inclusive and respectful to the environment. This in one hand. And on the other hand, we have community-based adaptation. But what is that? Community-based is a participatory approach where we can incorporate the knowledge of all those communities that we were saying up to now. So when we want to actually realize a blue economy that is sustainable and that is fair, that is equal, diverse, etc., we need to bring these actors to the table. We need to make them part of the decision-making processes, but also try to incorporate their workforce and knowledge and abilities and competencies to the implementation solutions that we are developing. This is what is called the community-based adaptation. We are building on the local knowledge that has been there for centuries. We are putting the focus on the livelihoods of the people so they can have their income produced in a sustainable, respectful way, but we are also acknowledging their cultural relevance, their importance, and their value to this community. In this case, we are all aware that there is many actions, many projects where often countries from the north go to the south and they try to implement one solution, and this solution is completely overlooking or looking the opposite direction at what the local community has been done forever. This has been shown as a complete wrong approach, because when we actually build on the strengths of this community, on this knowledge that they have traditionally and that has allowed them to contribute to the preservation of the environment and also produce their own income and produce what they need for their own homes, then we are actually building effective and sustainable solutions. So where can we link all this sustainable blue economy that is fair and that is inspired by the nature and inspired by the community? I don't know if you can see the presentation moving. Yes, do you see the slides as I pass them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then. So the thing is that these tools, nature-based solutions and community and the approach of community-based adaptation, they all share the same goal, which is contribute to the development of marine resources, their preservation, but also tackling climate change. So we all want to address global challenges. Okay, so in this case, when we are considering, we are inspired by the nature, and when we are using the local knowledge, then we can actually protect the ecosystem that are, for instance, buffer of the climate impact and climate change. For instance, if we are restoring the mangroves and coral reefs, as I was saying before, and we are also laying the foundation for a sustainable development, because we are incorporating practices that are less harmful because they have been sustained over time by those communities that depending on their own environment. And then very important, the community-based adaptation promotes the local participation and empowers these communities. So we have a community that is actively working on managing the adaptation in a way that integrates the ecological and the socioeconomic factor, and we have nature-based solutions that help us have more resilient coastal ecosystem and therefore more resilient coastal communities. And we are all working together towards the bigger challenges, such as having sustainable livelihoods, contributing to tackling climate change, etc. So we have seen that it's not easy. It's not. It's many things that we need to take into consideration. Not all sectors are developed to the same extent. Not all sectors are inclusive. Some of them are diverse, but very little are fair or are developed causing no harm to the environment. but we see that this is feasible if we take some of these tools into consideration. To go a step beyond, I would like to present you here, and maybe, I mean, I have plenty more of slides, but I don't know if we can all engage in such long session, but to just put the focus on one of the aspects, because I have other videos, but I don't think we can watch them all. But to focus, for instance, on the relevance of having a gender balanced blue economy, there is, if I can share it with you now, I hope that we can hear it all. There is a very nice video produced in the framework of the Ocean Decade by the United Nations on why gender equality is essential for impactful ocean action. I would like to play the video now, and I think I would also share it with maybe Tamara. If I share the link with you, you play it for me, it will sound better. I will try now, and then you let me know if you can hear it well. Okay. I will
Is it working?
I will share it here. I will stop sharing.
Yep.
And then I think I will share it in the chat. Maybe it's easier if you I hope it works like this.
Just 1 second.
Okay.
Oh. Here. Include sounds, and then I should go screen.
Okay. Yes, this is the one.
You hearing the sound?
Yes, maybe you can enlarge. It has subtitles actually. Thank you so much, Tamer, for sharing. as I said, the presentation is much longer. I wanted to share with you this video because it shows some specific examples from different areas of the world, and then how can we act just in one of the components, gender balance, and see the benefits, no, of incorporating the women. And also the local knowledge of these women in the conservation efforts, research efforts, research projects, etc., etc. And to conclude, because I think this is a bit longer than we all expected, I will skip a specific focus that I had on gender, but I wouldn't like to leave you without sometimes we think that for tackling all these issues, some of the projects here that were presented and highlighted by the United Nations Ocean Decade, they seem to be projects that need a lot of resources from the World Bank, from different development banks, etc., etc. But sometimes you don't really need much resources. You just need to follow this scheme that was presented by the colleagues of having thoughtful development of your initiatives or work and innovations in the blue economy. Sometimes all you need is to actually empower the community since the very beginning. And for that, I would like to show you, just to finish, how can we support the future generations in the blue economy. I will just share with you this small project. It's just the last slide, I promise. But so some of you know that we are working in a project in the Indian Ocean, Southwest Indian Ocean, and that we are working with Madagascar. So Madagascar is one of the countries that is really close to our hearts because of this project and because of ecological importance and its beautiful diversity, and of course because it's very bound to the blue economy and to the traditional sectors that are unfortunately not so inclusive and not always taking into consideration the equity, fairness, inclusivity principles. But there are some very beautiful things that they are doing there. And a little bit digging, I found this NGO, Daughters of the Deep, that is actually helping these younger kids, these little girls that are from difficult social backgrounds, etc. And together with the Madagascar Research and Conservation Institute, they are trying to educate this girl from some local communities that actually have no financial means to attend the school. So they are showing them how to swim, how to dive, and how to have some skills, some knowledge about the ocean, its relevance, its protection, etc., etc., in a way that they can feel part of the community. They can feel that they can also work in the blue economy if they want. They can take control of their own cultural heritage, being obviously an island state, and they can have a future. And this is a very nice yet simple initiative to support future generation of women in the blue economy, and also to try to make blue economy more inclusive, fair, and sustainable sector as a whole. So thank you all so much for your time today. Sorry that this was longer than expected. I'm open for questions, comment, etc. I know this was a lot because it's many concepts, but I'm happy to follow up I'm not sure if you were seeing the last slide that I
was about to ask you because you talk about this
yes,
project.
this was not showing. So this is
Okay.
a small picture by Daughters of the Deep. So we have a picture of the little girls here on board the vessel, and there is the instructor here trying to show the girls how to put the mask on, how to go into the sea, to feel safe there, and to contribute. And then thank you. So now, yes, this was all.
Thanks a lot, Eileen, for this very interesting and deep like discussion and workshop. And now we already over the time, but maybe we can have like 1, 2 question from our colleagues here, friends. Anyone has question for Eileen or?
I think you all have my contact, so
Yep.
if you
And
want,
I think we make it like round table discussion, like, while you are presenting, we stopped you and we discussed and we interfered. So this is great. Really, I would like to thank you, Eileen, for this insight, because simply you bought, like, we over like 20, 30, 34 lecture now, over 3 years, we start to discuss inclusivity and diversity from different point of view. And you highlighted today that we still have a lot of things to do. Even one of the major economic sectors that Europe would like to go for, Europe try to put more emphasize or the blue economy in order to be one of our power economy in Europe. You highlighted that okay, it's not fair, not equity, not inclusive enough, and we need to put more measure in order to make this. And this is one of our core value. So thank you very much, Eileen, for this insight, because I think this is important. And also, actually, this is following up of what we discussed when I was in Alicante, that we would like to go more towards this blue economy. So actually, I feel that there is sort of synergy between the different project and the ideas. So I would like also to thank all of our colleagues here, and for all our audience who will watch us online during a YouTube session. And I think this is, as Eileen highlighted, this is almost the last session. So actually, our last session will be for inspiring the mind, for this very nice roundtable discussions will be. We didn't fix it yet. It will be from Istanbul, actually, between 6 to the 10th of July. I don't know exactly when is the day, but I will inform all of you, and we will of course announce this. And this will be like the conclusion lecture or conclusion discussion, where we sit together in a round table and try to discuss together with our colleagues. Actually, it will be hybrid format, it will be in person, so we will have like colleagues from Istanbul who will join us on site to discuss the different outcome from Inspiring the Mind project, the measures that we succeed to achieve, how we will push it forward, how we'll make sure that our academic courses is more inclusive, more diverse, how we can like transfer all the results that we was working on it for almost 3 years, how we can implement it further beyond the project. So I hope all of you will be there, because I think this is a very, very important session. Just to make sure that the results of our work will be go beyond the 3 year project. So thanks all, and see you within 10 days or 15 days from now.
Thank you so much, Tamer, and thank you all so much for your feedback and inputs. It was very nice discussing with you today.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
very
for the
much, Ahmed.
interesting
Thank you very
session.
much, Helen.
Bye.